can hear me.
Hello.
Hey,
Yep,
yes,
we've
brilliant.
got ya.
You made it.
Yeah,
Welcome aboard.
Hello.
technical difficulties consisted of me not knowing where my headphones were.
Ah, that'll do it.
Yep. Now, let's see if I can set this up on push to talk. Because I will be eating and I would rather not have you all have to hear me munching away on something.
Fantastic. All right, welcome to the stream, anybody who's watching and everybody who's joining. So let's get rid of this music nice and quick today because we've got some stuff to do. Oh, buttons are hard. There we go. That's me up on the screen. But I am not all you will see tonight because, as you might be able to see by our notification, this is our first session of Session 0, where we're going to try and do D&D on a stream. We know it's never been done before, but it's not just me. We've got other people. At the moment, we've got Brendo and Wintera. Are you going by Wintera or by your other name?
Hello.
Andrew. So we've got Brendo and Andrew. Andrew, we've got Kitty popping in and out. We've got Sasha coming on. There's about 6 or 7 of us who will eventually be here, but there are a few things to happen left yet in the real world, like working and eating and all that kind of stuff that has to happen. But we are here today to talk D&D. We're here today to work out how we're going to play a game online, what game we want to play, and what stuff we shouldn't do to make each other angry. So, welcome.
Hello. Hello. It's good to be here.
Hello.
Hello.
Look at all those voices. Okay, so I've got more people in here than that, so we're going to stick that one up. And that way, because a few of us are having a few issues with making the video go, which I'm going to blame Discord for arbitrarily tonight, we'll stick those up. So we know that we've got 5 of us in, or 6 of us in total in that chat, which I think is what we're accepting. Huzzah! There's Sasha.
There we go.
We have you.
Fantastic. And Kitty, are you running sound? Doesn't appear to be. So Kitty is loading and coming. Up, back in, back out. Here's another good reason to have a practice, I reckon.
Yeah, well, I'm in
Yeah.
our pinks. It's all good. It's all good.
That's it. It's part of the fun. It's part of the fun of being on the line. Oh, that's good. I needed that sugar. All right, now obviously I've got an in-depth, huge plan for running this chat. No, I don't at all. I know that we've got stuff we probably all want to talk about. The ultimate aim of the evening is to come up with something that we can all do, we're all happy with, and a set of guidelines that mean we don't shout at each other unless we really need to. So as we've got people popping in and out, let's go with the people who can hear. Is there anything in particular you all want to do as you introduce yourself? Say g'day, tell us what else you do, those kind of things.
Yep, I'll go first if that's okay.
Absolutely.
So, yep, I'm Sasha. Kitty and I know each other in real life. We both laugh. So you can actually see some of my stuff up on the wall there.
Awesome.
And, yeah, I've GM'd a lot. I'm not very good at it. I much prefer being a player, mostly because I'm not very good at GMing. Yeah, things to cover tonight that I'm most interested in is just game and party tone. Mic etiquette would be a good one, especially considering that, from what I understand, these are going to be 2-hour sessions. And with people talking over each other, that can be an issue. And just house rules that we are going to have in play or not.
Fantastic. Okay, so I'm actually writing these down as you go because they're brilliant and, mic etiquette hadn't even thought of. So while you might say you're a bad DM, I'm going to also be a bad DM. So we can compare badness of DMs. Although I think any DM that says they're not bad probably is.
Cool.
Brilliant.
All right, I can go next. All right. Hello, everyone. My name's Brendan. I go by Brendo's Brain on the internet. I do gaming streams. I do LARPing IRL. I'm a forever GM, so it's awesome to get the chance to be a player. What do I want to get out of tonight? What we're playing, who's playing what. Yeah, themes, this, that's, whatever's. I kind of love roundtable discussions like this, so it should be good fun.
Fantastic.
I'll kick off then. Anthony, I've been DMing a long time, so but had a big break between versions. So a group of old friends invited me back to play 5e, and within a pretty short time I was DMing that group again. Took them right through all of Rise of Tiamat and all of that palaver, and then moved online with COVID. So I've got a bit of, experience with online play, which is good, but DMing pretty much constantly. So it will be very exciting to get to play. I've had a few one-shots and things with some character concepts I've mucked around with, but always just dropped in at a certain level. So never got a chance to build something up with a group. So that's going to be great.
Fantastic. Now, others that we've got joining us, you've probably seen Kitty drop in and drop out and drop in and drop out. So they'll be with us shortly, one would hope, and we'll leave time for that and find out what's going on there. We have Firefox Ice showing up there in the chat. That's Arlene. She'll be joining us as well. Unfortunately, I understand work continues for some of us, and so you have my condolences. This could be Kitty running again. Can you hear us, Kitty? Looks like a soft no there, so we'll keep waiting. So just to recap where we're at for the moment, we've got some party and tone stuff to talk about, mic etiquette. Firefox is waving to us in real life, so just so you're aware, that's happening. What are we actually playing? What kind of campaign? What kind of themes? What kind of characters? That's going to be fairly interesting to me as well, seeing as I then have to plan it. So I'm actually really stoked that all of you all appeared to be vastly more experienced than me. So that means when I inevitably fail and need to be picked up again, I know who to ask. So that's definitely one thing that I'll talk about tonight is where I come from as a DM, which is not from very long ago. I haven't been playing D&D for that long, about 4 or 5 years, and I've only been DMing for about that long as well. I play another game in real life, and I DM a game in real life. So this is definitely not going to add to stuff I need to think about.
Well, if it helps, for any rules queries, I kind of know most of 5e back to front.
Excellent.
So, yeah, so long as I know what house rules are going on, if there's something that seems off, I'll bring it up, but I'll try not to rules lawyer, because that would be a dick move.
That's it. Oh, that's fantastic. And yeah, that's probably something I'll talk about tonight is where I'll stand as a DM, which is going to be as casual as possible because, as we were talking about before the stream started, it would really be good for us to just have fun playing a game because I understand that's the purpose of them. Kitty, it sounds like you're almost with us there.
Yeah, I don't know what was going on. It just kept. I think I swapped what network I was using. I think it's just my internet connection was patchy.
Okay.
That it will be okay now.
Perfect. All right. Well, while you were popping in and out, we were introducing ourselves. So if you would like to take the stage, I'd like you all watching to imagine that the 2 little spinny blue dots there are Kitty. And I'm sure by the time we've got this sorted, they will be.
I don't think I need much introduction. I'm Kitty.
Mm-hmm. And
I missed what the rest of you said.
Yeah, we're doing a little bit of a background on our playing / DMing and other stuff we do that's around this sphere and what we're looking to get out of this round table before we get started.
Okay. I have played quite a number of D&D campaigns. I've never actually run any games. I've had a little bit of experience with a few different game systems. I I also do live action roleplay stuff, so lots of fun role-playing, acting out characters, improvising, that sort of thing. So I like to have that kind of aspect brought into D&D. So but yeah, I don't really have any other like social media presence or anything like that I want to plug.
Excellent, and that is something we'll continue to talk about. If I know some of us do a little bit of the stream and that kind of thing, and other platforms, we'll definitely talk about those. Thank you very much, Kitty. Thank you very much, everyone. As I said, Arlene will pop in if she is able to because of work, and we'll hear from her. Otherwise, we'll catch up in one of the later sessions between now and when we start gaming. I think that might be all of us, but I'm bad at numbers, so it is possible that I've missed somebody else who's popping in, but I'm going to pretend I haven't until I've been proven wrong. I suppose I'll start then, seeing as I'm going to try and tell a story here on this stream. What I'm looking for is an opportunity to play around on the internet. I decided that when I was going to have an early midlife crisis, and I do hope it's early, rather than buying a fast car, I thought I'd be a child and try and be a streamer, because it just tells me in the back of my mind that maybe I don't have to work a conventional job forever. I'm not realistic about that, so I'm not really doing a lot to try and make money or anything like that. I just want to play games, and if I can do that on the internet while people watch, all the better. One of those games, of course, is D&D. I, as many have online, have watched a lot of streams of D&D, and there's varying ones I like. The behemoths, obviously. I love my Critical Role. I love that community, as I'm sure most do. And you hear lots about the Matt Mercer effect causing big issues. But one thing I love about that is that it really is a shared collaborative story. And I'd love to be that good. I'm probably not. Don't really care. I'm going to try. I see 5e as a really amazing opportunity to put a little bit of structure around collaborative storytelling. I'm an English teacher by trade, and I love it. I love teaching English because it's exciting, and I'm excited by it. But the rules that we impose around it in the education system just annoy me. Whereas with this, we can do whatever we want. We've got so many different ways to tell a story. It's such a rich way to share a story. And so that's where I come from, both as a player where I can, but as a DM, and creating a world and just sharing it, engaging it, giving it flexibility so that all of the people who are playing can have a say in what goes on. So I'm getting my head pretty quickly around the rules, but sometimes I see them more as guidelines when it comes to RP. When it comes to rolling dice to do murdering, well, that's a good help to have a dice there to tell us what happens. But aside from that, if there's a discussion where we have to drop out a character quickly and go, yeah, but what about this? Sure. And that's something I'd be interested in your guys' take on. Where do you want to go with that kind of thing? Are we going to be like, once we're playing, we're in role? If we're doing that, I apologise in advance for my terrible role playing, because I haven't been a laugh, and I have not run a campaign or been in a campaign where everybody else is on board and wants to do that. And my brain is not very structured, so I pop all over the place and drop out a little bit from time to time. So are we looking for something that is very much we're all in character all the time? Are we going light role play? Are we going somewhere between? Do we all need to be on the same page with that? What are your thoughts? Oh, the sound went away. That's scary.
I do like the idea of a happy middle, like an opt-in system. You can kind of go as hardcore as you like, but then you just have to be respectful that if someone is like going full Shakespearean, that we just ride that wave.
Yeah, I think a balance is good, because I think it's hard to be always on in character, but as much as I like doing a lot of role play, it takes me a little bit to get my head around things like that anyway, and sometimes you need to discuss outside of things and just playing to whatever everyone else is doing. If someone's obviously having an acting out moment, then letting that go and go with that is always, I think, a really fun thing. But also equally, if people aren't very comfortable doing that, allowing them to still play the way they play is equally important, I think. So I'm open to both, really.
Yeah, so basically read the room situation. So it's like, if someone's having a serious roleplay moment, then let that roll. But if we're just in combat, goofing around and stuff, like, we can just goof around and should be fine. So long as we're not stepping on anyone's toes, it seems like it should work.
All right. Well, I might just before you jump in, Anthony, I might then just knock down that one thing we do need to talk about there as well is limits. And if we're doing something and someone's not feeling comfortable or something like that, we do need to address that at some time today to make sure that we don't have a problem there. But I will put that aside for the moment because Anthony, I think you were about to talk. You're talking, but I'm not hearing any sound. Your little green circle line isn't working.
Do you have push to talk?
You're going now.
He's
Am I going
green.
now?
Yeah.
I had switched to push to talk because I didn't know if my air conditioner was coming through. But I'm gonna bugger that off and get back, unless it's a problem. Yeah, I think what you've all said is good and fine. Read the rooms, like a key message. Rule stuff, I find it good if you know, so obviously something where you're just going, oh well, is that how it works, or what happens there? But if rather than having multiple people jump in and explain how they think it, and they're probably right, most like chuck it in the chat in Roll20 would be my suggestion, because then the DM can pick it up from there. I don't know, you know, and then it's not sort of other people interjecting on how a rule works. Especially if there's more experienced people in the game playing than running the show. In terms of the actual game style, I generally like heroic fantasy, but I also like the really grim stuff in an equal mix. So, like, if you were just grinding through a Ravenloft, it just gets a bit tired after a while. But I don't always want to be Helm's Deep either. Yeah, so interspersing gothic horror with heroic fantasy with whatever is all good. Generally prefer not PvP if it can be avoided, as the intent is a group of not necessarily heroes. There's always the non-hero, but collectively trying to achieve some sort of outcome, whatever that might be.
I always love big damn heroes.
Yeah.
I like ordinary, non-heroic characters.
Yeah.
That could be fun.
Oh, I'm not so much talking like the character's background, but like
You mean
acts
big,
in
like
game.
Mm.
Yeah, like acts in game of it's like, okay, regardless of where you came from, we're here to be the big damn heroes. I've always loved that because it's always just a good feeling to be the people saving the day.
Yeah.
You are no longer shoveling in the stables. You're going out and fighting that red dragon, whether you like it or not. Have fun.
enjoy that.
Nice. Good to know. Now, when it comes to the details of that, my initial thought was after this, we'd get together maybe one or two at a time, and when we do a role of a character, we can have discussions with one or two there and do our session zeros into the main game there, so we can establish a bit of backstory and a bit of pre-relationship before we meet in the, well, let's assume it'll be a tavern until we decide otherwise. And so we've got that sort of little bit of backstory, and that will allow me to go, okay, well, with these different characters and these different backgrounds that everyone's created, this is a good place to start, and this is a good story that we might do. And before we properly start, I'll give you a broad overview of what we're going to go with. I get the impression that I'll homebrew a lot of stuff. I'll probably steal a little bit here and there. I'm very good at stealing battle maps, so I don't have to make them myself, but I love just sketching them and drawing them as well.
It's inspiration.
I've got a persistent world that I run in my other game that Araby, who dropped in before, has been a part of, and that's just the product of the last lockdown and me sitting around for about 400 hours while we waited to be able to go back outside on Roll20 just drawing maps and engaging, and I, did the calendar and went all geeky and deep. And I love playing that, and it's a big enough world. I could just drop us in there and then build stuff around that, or we could pull in some elements for one of the new stories. But I think having our characters and having an idea of where they wanted to come from in a general sense will help me sort of build into that. What do you think on that?
I think that's good. I think it's a bit easier for you if you wanted to pull in any published stuff. That's fine as well. Probably better to just sound us out in case we've read it or played it before, just in case. But
I think we've got more DMs in here than players, so I think that's good advice.
Yeah.
I've only ever run homebrew stuff, so I wouldn't know official source material if I saw it.
I also primarily love me some homebrew, so I get it.
Nice.
One of my favourite games I ran, I believe Kitty was actually in it, was this great big heist game where everyone is rogues, and it was like a whole session of just planning out how to get through this building, and then the next session desperately trying to make sure you didn't stuff up yourself.
Stick to the plan.
Stick to the plan.
Nice. That sounds awesome. All right, so that's great, and I'll put that forward for the next time. It reminded me of another thing I wanted us to talk about, but I can't remember. So we're going to go back up. So that sort of, to me, covers game and party tone. I think we've established that we're going to be doing something that might not be high fantasy, might have some terrifying, harrowing moments, but we're not going to be tying that down too much. I'm sure that will, if your guys are good with it, we'll sort that out as we roll, and we can reflect the tone in what we play. Does that sound good?
Yeah, that sounds fair.
I have a monthly Rogue Trader game. Terrifying and horror-filled is A-okay.
Excellent. On that, though, do we have any limits? Is there anything I should not bring us near? Are there any things we shouldn't say? Has anyone got any particular pet nicknames to avoid or use, or, ways they want to be addressed? Any of that stuff? If there's stuff like that you'd rather not talk about live yet, throw it in a message later. But if there's something that you want to bring out now so we know about, this would be a good time.
I'm trans, so just like she, her, girl.
She, her, awesome. Helpful. Anything else? Anything that we don't talk about? Any story beats that we avoid? Any emotional, heartfelt moments that are best avoided or really, really exciting to you all?
Bad things happening to kids and dealing with consent.
Consent and bad stuff with kids. Now, as I said, I'm a teacher, so bad stuff with kids, well off the table. Normally when I'm streaming games, I make it pretty clear that I do my best not to be sweary. I am quite a sweary person in real life, except when I'm at work, but I'm doing my best to personally not swear on the stream while I'm gaming. I'm going to suggest it's probably a good idea to be a little bit more flexible with this one. I leave my channel on M15+. I tell everybody that it's an adults-only channel. However, I avoid the swearing because there's no getting around the fact that younger people watch this stuff. So that's something that I think is worth considering. Again, there are moments where in stories and in situations it's appropriate, but that to me is normally quite rare. So that's one that I would throw in there.
For me, there's no topic that's taboo, but I think that there's a tactful way that you can insinuate something's going on, without getting graphic about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you swear and you say, "You're a bloody bleep, 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 bleep," people put in worse than probably that you were going to say. You don't need to. It's probably not unnecessary. So, yeah, that's all I would say. I would want to add. And Roll20's got a pretty good, just very simple card. You could always switch that on.
Mm-hmm.
That, where if something's getting too much or whatever, you can basically raise the card, and it's not even self-identifying, so it just tells the DM to change tack or back down a little.
Excellent. I think that's another good, regardless of what we're doing. So I'm looking at Roll20. I've actually been playing around with, hold on, what's it called? Owlbear Rodeo, because last time I played with Roll20, it was very, very resource hungry, and I just wonder if with 7 of us, it's going to slow us down too much.
Yep.
So just let me put it over your faces for a moment. I'll show you what it looks like. No, I won't, because that's not that kind of thing. All right, I'll bring it up later. But literally, it's a browser-based thing where I can upload a JPEG map and just drop our tokens on. So we've got an idea spatially of what's going on. And it doesn't involve any program jumping in or anything like that at all. So that's one of the things. I do have a copy of Tailspire as well. So if we want a big set piece in 3 dimensions, we can mess around with that as well. So I'm open to your guys' feedback over the next couple of weeks about which ones of those work, which ones of those don't. I had initially planned to run all in Roll20 because I've used it before. I'll have to upskill because they changed the lighting since last time I was doing a West Marches campaign online. I think I'll fall back mainly to Roll20, and I'm definitely open to your feedback and backseating on that one.
I've never played any D&D online, so like other than like just a voices over Discord with a dice rolling app. So no matter what's used will be a new experience for me.
I have spent a stupid amount of time and money into Roll20, so every time I think about going elsewhere, I'm like, but the investment is over here already, so...
Yeah, that sounds good.
Keep you going.
Yeah.
100%.
I think whatever works for you, really. If we just depends on what we're using to maintain our character sheets. So if we create them in D&D Beyond, you know, if you want to see dice rolling, for example, on screen, I don't know what the other systems have got.
Have you looked at Foundry, the virtual tabletop system?
I looked at that, but I essentially put my money elsewhere. I put it in Roll20 and Tailspire, so I haven't gone further into it yet because it looks really.
I just think it looks really good.
Yeah,
I've not played around with it myself. I've just watched videos, but it looks pretty cool, I think. So
I spent about a week watching videos of Roll20 and Foundry, and went to Roll20 because it looked just slightly easier.
Yeah.
Even though it didn't seem to have exactly the same depth of opportunity in it. Almost missed this.
Really with Roll20, so
yeah,
I'm happy with that.
Easy done. All right, Firefox Ice. So Arlene has added that she welcomes all conversation about her dog. So I think we're going to have there's a potential of a pet-friendly campaign there, which I've definitely never done.
Well, there may be barks in the background here. But
fantastic.
I'm happy for that to be in game as well.
Awesome. Oh, you are in and out everywhere today, Kitty. It was good timing there, though. It's happy for have him as well drop out of the conversation. Mic drop.
It just drops and then immediately connects again, but it's just enough to be annoying. I'll have to look into why it's doing it. Yeah.
Well, I'm
not really 100% sure.
I'm at a potential Monday stream record of like 8 concurrent viewers at the moment. So you know what, those kind of little glitches are probably not going to be a big issue at this stage.
Well, that's a significant way.
Unless I miss important information, if it cuts out, I might miss bits. But I'm not 100% sure why it's doing it. If it's just my net dropping out, or if it's something specific to Discord, because my network for everything else seems to be fine. But we'll see. I'll play with it and try to work out what's going on.
I'm open to other ways of cameraing as well, because in order to get us to work on the screen that we'll be using, and I'm just going to pop you through so your faces are going to disappear. If you're watching the stream, take a look. Maybe I can put you in there. There we go.
Nice. I dig it.
So that's sort of all of our faces will go over on the side there. So that's if we have 7 other players in. That's if we have 6 other players in. This is what it will look like when we're doing one-on-ones for character build and that kind of thing. And if we do a double or a triple there, I'll just adjust that layout. And so where your faces are on that is where we'll be able to put D&D Beyond for a setup. And so as you build the character, I'll build a dummy one here so anyone who's watching can see what we're building. Because I suppose that's something worth covering now as well, is part of the reason I've called this session 0 is I really think this kind of stuff, if I'm going to do a stream, I wanted to make a difference by actually showing this kind of stuff, because I think it's important when people are getting into this game that they realize that there is a lot of stuff goes on first, and it's particularly about making sure everyone's on the same page so you don't run into troubles.
Yeah, that's good.
A lot of busy work.
Yeah, exactly. And I know on the chat the other day we were all talking about the possibility of going fortnightly. So we have a game one week and then a break the next weekend. I think, Sasha, you were saying Monday was also your board game night, for example.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm currently missing out on the animals theme, but worth it.
That's it. So I think I sort of don't hate that idea, because then on the opposite Monday, I will probably stream some of the world building and some of the stuff that I'm doing to prepare. Because I also get the impression, and I will take your feedback on this as well, I don't mind that the prep for a lot of stuff isn't completely hidden behind the DM's wall. Obviously, if we get to important secrety stuff and you turn into super sleuths, or if there's a big bad coming up, I probably wouldn't do that on stream. But a lot of the other stuff, you guys seem to be pretty formidable role players, so I'm sure we can ignore what we know as players compared to what we know as characters.
I love player buy-in with all things, especially world building, because then it means you get to do less work and we get to do more work. So it's like win-win.
The other thing you can do is have 2 voice channels, and I call one the ethereal plane or the cone of silence or something, and then you can always drag one player in there, and then you and them can have your chat, and it's still streaming. People who are viewing can see it, and then you switch back to the main group.
I like that. That should be fun.
That's a good idea.
Writing that down, that will be fun for in-game.
I've had like 3 concurrently. Someone was ethereal, someone was in a darkness and couldn't hear, or in another room or something. And just if the party splits, you can actually split the party. Try and obviously minimise it. But
I'd never thought of that. That's so cool. Oh, my brain just got busy and big, so that's going to be fun to think about later. Instead of sleeping, I dare say.
Oh yeah, and one bit of advice for GMs is just like, listen to what your players are saying, and if something comes up that the players are saying that makes you think, oh, that's better than what I had planned, just take it, because we will never know.
100%. That's something that I love doing, and that's part of why I want to spend some time beforehand doing characters and finding backgrounds, because there's nothing cooler than being a character and then going, oh, I mentioned that little stick that I was searching for in my backstory like 50 weeks ago, and I've just found it. Just happened to fit into one of the the big things you needed to find after, and I reckon that's cool as a player, and I like doing it as a DM. So absolutely.
I'm just going to drop the video on mine, because it's kind of playing with my ability to have the stream up and the Discord going.
All good.
Yeah, I'm still here. I can still hear. I can still talk.
Excellent. I'll just look for the little green circle. I'm sort of watching. Actually, I'll come to this in a second. I'm just looking at little green circles at the moment and trying to talk around those. But this is something you raised, Sasha, which I think is definitely worth talking about, because I have very little experience with it. In the last decade or so, is mic etiquette. Now, my background, long ago, I was a pilot and a pilot instructor and had quite a lot to do with air radio and those kind of things. And so I'm not saying we go to full call signs, because that'd be weird. But what have you done, or what do you guys recommend for making sure we're not talking over each other all the time?
I think you need to prompt. It's very easy when you're talking in a conversation in a room for someone to say, yeah, or okay, oh, that sounds like a good idea. And 3 people saying that simultaneously, which is all perfectly polite, becomes chaos. Or, okay, who's going to go first? Who's going to open the door? And then 3 people. Easiest thing is for you to just say, hey, Kitty, what is your character doing? Or or no, you go ahead and just give someone the speaking stick, basically.
Too easy. And then we can do the same one where when someone has the floor, is sort of pass on, I say this to so-and-so, and so-and-so then knows that they sort of get right of reply before someone interjects.
Yeah. Takes a while. It takes a while for the group to actually get into that groove.
Perfect.
I think the cameras really help too, because you can see people a little bit better when there are no cameras. You're kind of just going off the little green circles.
Excellent.
Yeah. One other thing that I found helped in the no Roll20 or anything, but just over Discord voice chat game I was in, was if you're unless someone doesn't have a mic for some reason and is having to rely on the text, if you've got small comments to make or whatever, just make them in the chat and leave the mics open for people who are talking about things in the game when
Excellent.
possible.
Good call.
That's fair.
Yeah, I like that. Now, a lot of this stuff I'm not writing down because we all seem to be very much on the same page with it so far. One thing that I will say, and I've probably said something like this before, it is really important if we reach something that you're not enjoying yourself for whatever reason, be it because you don't like where the campaign's going, because somebody said, because you're not in a great mood, and that's something that I think it's very, very important that I know, whether you tell everyone else, not particularly fussed, but anyone you're willing to tell, because having a knowledge of that means that we can change direction. It means that we can stop doing something that makes people not having fun and then go back to things that are more fun. Because it is very, very important to me that if we're doing this, if we're spending 2 hours a fortnight sitting here doing it, that we do it. Kitty! Got your face! Video on!
Yeah!
It's working.
Made it! Exciting!
Sort of. It's just constantly dropping out. It's frustrating the hell out of me.
Yeah, that would be really... I imagine being in your position, I would be absolutely raging by this
I
stage.
tested all this. I tested this too to try and make sure this wouldn't happen. And
Oh,
yeah.
it's fun. Have you been hearing the whole time? And are you still sort of connected into what we're talking about?
Most of the time, it just every now and then there's a few seconds of cut out before it reconnects, but most of it I've been hearing. Yeah, it's frustrating.
Awesome.
It's just
Well,
those hashtag session 0 things. Session 0 things.
that's it.
Yeah.
Is it all right if whenever the internet goes bad, I just blame our government for having 17-year out-of-date internet? Can we just do that?
Oh yeah, I'm 100% on board.
Preach. Preach.
Look,
Pretty sure we're all doing that.
Japanese researchers just managed to hit 319 terabytes a second. What the hell are we doing?
That's it.
Suffering.
Yeah. Anyway, I suddenly get the feeling that we really all need to not talk politics or those kind of things on stream too far. I think we'd all have a knock on the door before too long, I think. Alrighty, what else do we need to go? House rules. Look, I don't have a lot to add on this. My house rule is generally rule of cool. If it's cool and reasonable, even if it's a little tiny bit outside the rules, I'm probably going to let it go. I would love to say I'm a very, very consistent DM, but rule of cool tends to outweigh that most of the time. So I'm open to direction and feedback on that. I know it can be difficult, particularly if we're right at a stressful moment. I tend not to play hijinks then because that would be a dick move. Aside from that, though, I'll play the rules as they're down most of the time, unless they're stupid. Unless we all think they're stupid, then we'll change them. What are your thoughts?
Yep, I like that.
I basically run games nearly the exact same way as that, so it fits me perfectly. And when I'm playing, I always like to be like, so I know I am not meant to do this, but...
Well, what you were saying before, Sasha, on the chat about, look, if I'm a level 8 bard and I roll a natural 1, I'm probably not going to stab the person next to me. I'm probably good enough by this stage to at least not do that. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because that was really interesting, the idea of not having fumbles. Because I've not used fumbles as a big thing in my campaigns before, so I want to hear about that, which sort of links on to this. Let's play with the rules.
Yeah, so a lot of groups out there, I get it. If it works for your group, it works for your group. If it doesn't, it doesn't. For me, I've never had a good experience with critical fumbles. So a critical fumble is if you roll a nat 1, instead of just missing your attack, you make a big mistake, like you drop your sword, or you accidentally hit an ally, or you fall prone. And the thing is, like a level 1 fighter in a single turn has a 5% chance of rolling a 1 in their turn. A level 20 fighter, if they're using all of their juice, like if they're burning action surge, is rolling a d20 8 times, and there is a 34 to 35% chance of them rolling at least a single 1. So there is a 7, like they are 7 times more likely to make a catastrophic mistake than the inexperienced level 1 fighter who has just gone out on their adventure.
I like that. I've got something to say about that, but I might open up to the rest of you first to talk about. What are your thoughts?
I think critical fumbles are built into or baked into the natural 20s of your enemies. So somebody rolls in, so you've stumbled and fallen forward, and they've taken the opportunity to do double damage to you. So you're getting that anyway.
That and like the punishment for rolling a 1 is already there. You miss, guaranteed. It's like that's your punishment for rolling a 1. That and humiliation. But
Nah, that's so annoying, isn't it? Just that one. I reckon we just scratch them all off the dice.
Narrative.
yeah, get D19.
I only implement fumbles on a 0 or lower on whatever check it is, because that's a catastrophic roll. The odds of someone getting a 0, whether it's friend or foe, is so astronomically low that when it does happen, then you really have to use it to make an example of something.
Oh yeah, especially considering that if you're getting a 0, that means you've got a negative modifier, which means you have no business doing what you're doing.
That's exactly right, and that's what makes it so much more funny when it does happen. Because it might only happen once a campaign, but you always remember, because you'd be like, hey, remember that time when Sasha rolled a 0, and we all just go, yes, by God, we do.
Fantastic. Just quickly, Mimetic Charizard, thank you so much for following the channel. I'm going to try not to do the whole, hey, thank you for following during our streams on a Monday. I'll definitely do that on the days I'm doing games, but after tonight, I will do it while I've got 0 viewers and those kind of things. But I will probably avoid doing that once we're trying to be in a game, because that'd be really interesting. You found the Dark Tower and you see the bad guy in front of you. Unicorn Poo, thank you so much. I think that might pull us out a little bit. Arlene has said that people in chat can do the thank yous. I would love that. That would be fantastic. But was also saying that I think we might have had Kitty freeze on us. I was looking up there and... Oh, there you are. Yeah, you're up.
A few seconds.
Yeah, you had a fairly long blink there, I think.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So even do a portion at the end of the stream where we're saying like, thanks guys, good night, and also thank you to these people.
I like it. That's a great idea. Now, for me, if nobody else has got anything to enter on that, for fumbles, for me, one thing I always like to do is I tend to find in the games I play, when I do a critical fail, I normally offer something that I think would be funny or in character, which would mean that would be considerate of where I am and at what level. Quite often it's, oh yeah, I had a half-orc druid. He was just looking at flowers, like literally not in the game at the moment, or those kind of things. So there were things like that which meant that I, as the player, could control if I thought there was something that was characterly important or had good flavour. Hold on, I'll just bring it up for you, dude. Yeah, so that's one way that I thought of doing it, because, again, I sort of agree. Having me go, yeah, you dropped your sword, and you're like, yeah, but I said in my backstory I'd spent 20 years learning with my knife. Like, it's not going to happen. So I love the idea. So if that kind of stuff works for you, again, I'll play around with those examples, and we'll see what sticks. Sasha?
Yep, so just on the note of in my backstory, it said that I've been training with my knife for 20 years.
Oh, this is going to be good.
Backstory's appropriate to the level we're starting. If we're level 1, you haven't slayed 10 dragons. You're not like the greatest swordsman of the Empire. You are someone who is just starting. Like, you have some training in your background, but you're not legendary yet.
Yeah,
Please,
absolutely.
backstory.
So-
I've seen it too many times.
So no emperors of entire lands on spring break kind of thing. I agree.
No, that's a goal. That's a goal to achieve in game.
100%. Absolutely. All right. One other thing that I want to be doing on this stream is, as we hopefully start to build people who watch, and I'm not having high hopes here. I mean, I'm pretty happy with 11 people, even if 7 or 8 of them are us. To be honest, that makes me happy. But if we happen to get more people start watching and start engaging in the chat, I would love to be bringing them in, allowing them to backseat, not obviously in the characters so much, but if we have regular people coming back who have really good ideas for NPCs, you know what? Let them run that if they're running it in character. They can suggest, I can do it, or we might even throw an extra voice channel for that. I don't know what it'll look like, but that's part of what I sort of hope to be able to do. I'm obviously not going to let trolls run trolls, although trolls running trolls would be a great laugh, but just having people who are in the chat and engaging in the right vein or the right essence of the game, having them be able to have some suggestions, and if not, they're not completely bonkers, actually throw them in so we can be reacting to the people who are playing real time. Giggle Fairy, for example. Well, I rolled a 1. Guess I dropped my hand axe as I went to throw it. Not guess I sliced my hand open on my hand axe, or guess I hit Bob the friendly NPC. Exactly. So that's just that idea of having people throw suggestions up. Definitely for me as the DM, I'd love to sort of take those, mention them, bring them in if we're not right in the middle of role play, or bring them in at a later time without mentioning them. I wonder if you guys are open to that idea for me, or maybe for you guys from time to time. What do you think?
Yeah, I love it. I
Yeah,
do with,
that's great.
With my streams, that's what I use my points for. So as they rack up points, they can redeem their points to add things to the game, which are like NPCs, shops, houses, whatever they want.
That's cool.
Like, if they save up enough points, maybe add some sort of natural disaster even.
Yep.
Like, add just a major tilt.
Yeah, so most of the
They save
time
up
it's,
points.
I want to make a custom monster, so I've got points that scale to the different CR tiers. So obviously a lot of people are banking on their points because they want that 10,000 points so they can make a CR 30 monster that might never come in, but just the idea of there maybe being a chat-generated random encounter that's a CR 30 Godzilla-type monster. And then that person in the chat is just like, you're all dead, and it's my fault.
Catasaurus Rex.
Yeah.
That is cool. I love that idea. I'm glad you like it as well. So those are the 2 big things for me in terms of not a point of difference, but Arlene says a list of events to choose from even to start. Now, I'm not at having bits activated yet. I've got a few to go on my first 30 day for that to happen. So I think it'll be another cycle before I get an opportunity there. At which stage I'll have to have a bit of a discussion with my real world employers about whether it's something I'm allowed to do. But I think it should be okay.
Do you have it in your contract that you're not allowed to have a second job?
Not exactly. It's complicated, and I'll probably talk about it off stream at some stage because I want to be as careful as I can to separate. Up until this stream, I've not really spoken about what I do at all, and I'm probably not going to go on stream much further. Definitely talk to you folks about it outside, so you've got the context. But yeah, English teacher, as I said, going to be very careful.
Yeah, fair. We've got a couple of teachers at LARP, so yeah, we know what's going on there. Or
Yeah.
Kitty and I do.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But they're the big different things that I was thinking, well, if I'm going to stream, these are extra depths and dimensions that we can have. Again, if you all have something that we want to try, I'm super open for that. If you come in one week and go, oh, why don't we try this? Let's make it happen. Let's find a way for it to work, see whether it fits. I mean, if it doesn't, we'll just go, oh, that was good to try. We won't do it again. And if it works, it might be awesome.
Yeah. That's how you find fun new things to do, right?
Exactly right. Seriously, I think, Brendo, you said you laughed as well. Like the three of you in there, that is a thing I'm going to need to talk about one time because I've always avoided it because I know that it would be a bottomless hole where my money went.
Yeah, so, you can barely see a sword in that corner over there. That
Yeah.
was $600.
Oh.
I believe that.
Yeah.
I believe that.
Yeah, the armor over there was about 647.
It looks amazing.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love it. It's the Kendra set by Mythalon, specifically done by Fusina Del Draco, and it is just quality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do good nice stuff.
Oh yeah, I nerd out about my gear a lot.
Hey, definitely allowed. I think we're going to be all about that because, again, as I said, I can't look at that for too long, or all of the money that I don't have is even smaller. That is cool.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to get so distracted by that, so we need to keep going. Is there anything else that we haven't covered that we need to talk about?
I do have a question about, I don't know if it's not rules or anything, but more about setting. So when developing a character backstory, are you planning to set in terms of like cities and locations and gods and those kind of details? Is it all the homebrew that you're making up? Can we make up, say, our own god that we worship, or our own city that we're from, or are you sort of focusing in on the like the existing D&D content, gods and temples and cities and stuff like that?
My baseline background is essentially the real gods, and the world that I've created is connected to the prime material planes in a few ways, but that's got its own fairly small contained pantheon that's got its own backstory, which has a tangential link to the larger universe. So I think there's scope to do it in a number of different ways. If you're not particularly tied down to a particular name of a place or a particular god, if you, when we do our character setup, give me types, I can be going, okay, well, if we're using my existing homebrew campaign, that's probably going to be this one. This is where it is geographically, generally. Would that work for you? And just sort of fit it in. If we end up going with the general Faerun kind of thing, or if we're going into one of the other existent universes, same thing. I can go, okay, well, that would probably fit there, so let's start here, just so we can make sure we're all within a realistic. Because I mean, if looking at Faerun, for example, like if we're having a campaign in Baldur's Gate, the idea of a level 1 character having just wandered down from the Icewind Dale or something, that's a big stretch unless they've been put on a boat and are slaves. It's just trying to find something that fits spatially. And again, if you're determined to have that particular god and I don't have it built, that's a really good excuse for me to come up with a reason that it would exist, or an exception, or perhaps that's why this stuff is happening, kind of thing.
Yeah, okay, because I do tend to have, I generally like to create sort of a...
No. She's there.
No, we lost you there for a minute.
Okay, I like to have an idea of that sort of thing, just because often I'll develop a story and origin for my character that I like to be situated in the game quite well. I'm happy to have, say, for example, this is the kind of, like, say, I worship this god, but I don't have a specific god in mind. It's more the types of rituals and behaviors and personality of that particular religious group or cult or whatever. And you can fit that into your world, or tell me that doesn't exist in your world, and I'll have to, like, come up with something else. But I do like to have an understanding, at least, of the world and the setting a little bit, so that I can incorporate it as much as possible, rather than just kind of going, I've got this vague idea of where I come from.
Excellent. And I think when
we can discuss that more when we're doing it. But yeah, I just thought good thing to sort of bring up to make sure that like nobody makes this whole setting in their head and then go, oh, well, that doesn't work at all. You know.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, go on, Sasha.
Also, on a related note, do we have any idea what level we're starting at? Because that will affect our backstories a lot.
I've always.
I actually like starting at low levels.
I like starting at 1, to be honest.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I like starting at 1, but there is a fairly definite chance that by the end of our first session you'll be at level 2, because while it's great to start at 1, it's not great to stay there for any length of time. So literally you'll pick up an orange and it's going to give you 300 XP if we don't find a reason to have a fight.
So, one thing I've seen for leveling was actually whatever level you are, it takes that many sessions to level up. So you're level 1, 1 session, you're level 2. Level 2, 2 sessions, you're level 3. You're level 3, 3 sessions, you're level 4. And so on. So it's like, because it takes more and more to become better and better as you go along.
Are we going to be doing milestone over traditional XP?
I tend not to do milestone because it's just like I arbitrarily when you tell you when you get to a new area. I don't tend to give differing XP to people if they're not able to make a session or anything like that, because that's not fun for the person who misses a session because they had to go to work, or they miss a session because something seriously happens and then gets punished and put behind the rest of the players. So if somebody's holding the horses, they're probably still going to get the experience. But being able to go, that got me this many experience and I'm that much closer, to me is part of the fun. So that's how I've done it. Open to doing milestone, but prefer doing an XP one. But I still sort of try and ramp it up, as you're saying, Sasha. Maybe not like as you get up to 3 and 4 and 5, it gets bigger. It might be more of an exponential one, depending on what we're doing. But again, between level 1 and level 4, I'd rather we weren't sitting there going, man, if I had something else cool like that I can do at level 5, I'd be able to solve that problem.
Yeah, so like in Borderlands, if you're doing stuff that's way lower level than you, you're not going to be getting much XP. But if you're doing stuff that's above you, then you're going to get a chunk because you're having to work for it.
I suppose
it's probably too slow. The early levels, as you say, 1 to 4, similar to what's with Adventurers League, you generally go up a level every 1 or 2 sessions. Once you get into tier 2 and beyond, it really should be every 2 to 4 sessions. Otherwise, playing once a fortnight, we'll be here for 3 years before you get to, start slinging some disintegrates or whatever around the place.
Yeah, awesome. I also, it's probably worth raising there from my perspective when I've DM'd before, I'm not good at, and I probably need to take some advice from you folks on this, I'm not good at balancing CRs. What I'll normally do is I'll build an encounter that is going to be deadly for you, but manipulate it just enough so you feel like you're about to die, but you rarely do. And if I'm killing you, like I'm not the kind of DM who's going to want to try and kill you unless you willfully do something that I think is stupid.
oh yeah. If you're doing something stupid, you're going to get a stupid result.
It's got to be the threat of death, but it's not fun to have a character you've worked on for 6 months just go because of that.
I'm actually a big fan of very high risk games where your characters very well could die in any situation. I am not afraid for my characters to die at all and make new ones. I think part of the fun for me anyway is that
Kitty, we lost you for a second. Part of the fun is
part of the fun is the risk that you might die, and that all of the it's part of, you are doing dangerous shit as an adventurer. The likelihood that you're going to die is high if it was real life, and I don't have a problem with that being part of a game. I understand that a lot of people like to have the safer kind of heroic adventure, but I don't have a problem with dying.
Running is an option. we always have the option to run. People forget that.
That's it.
Like, we
Yeah.
always, like,
And-
if the situation is too dangerous, we can always just run away and deal with it another day.
And if you think about fighting in general, in most situations, fights aren't to the death. You know, the idea I think that every encounter ends in the enemy or you dying is a sort of, it's a game idea. I like the idea that you know, creatures might go, oh, you know what, you're tougher than I thought, I'm out. You know, same with players. If you're like, oh, this guy's really tough, let's bail. I think that's part of adventuring, and it's quite fun to do that.
Absolutely. That's good to know. If you're all in agreement in that, I'll be a little bit more harsh. But again, still, it's not going to be you didn't do what I thought you should have done, so you will die. It will be this. You know, this character is going to respond in this way. If you as players can do it, the characters can do it. They're going to be intelligent, unless they're bugbears and goblins and stuff. As we go up, the people, the foes that you face will be more and more intelligent. You'll run into, depending on what you do and where you go, there'll be some creatures who are like, well, just because you're down, I know you're not dead, you're unconscious, so I will stab you while you're unconscious. But it's not going to be a surprise to you. You're going to go, well, that's the kind of person who's definitely likely to do that. Because it'll be the Shakespeare way of explaining it. If Shakespeare said these people are saying that they're bad, they're bad. You know, that idea of, you know, there's no hiding the fact that this character is this character. It doesn't seem like a good idea when you're trying to work out the motivations of the characters that you're against.
Would new characters come in at the party level? There's more at stake otherwise if you're at a high level and you've got to start at 1.
I would think. What do you think on that? I've not even thought of that. I've always just assumed they'd come in maybe a level or 2 below or at the same level.
My suggestion is the same, but with no magic items. So and with just whatever, you know, player level 1 equipment and money. So basically, you're destitute.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. And it will also
you've got to have a reason to want to join up with this group, but at the same time, this group has to have a reason to be allowing you to join. So if you're destitute but equally competent, then that makes sense. You're destitute, so you need to join this group to make it back up, but you're still competent, so this group isn't going to look at you and just go, oh, you're dead weight.
Yeah, like it. Yeah, that's fantastic. And of course, it's not going to be you died, they're in our session, you're just there. It could be a session or 2 before we find a good RP way. Now, I'm not going to leave somebody with a dead character sitting for like weeks and weeks. Again, dick moves, we're against them. I think we're all on the same page on that one, but it might be you have to wait for half a session or the best part of a session before we find an inn or find a way to bring that back. And that will depend, of course, on the character you build and where we are and what you want to do yourself. I will definitely take new characters' suggestions on that, and I'll definitely not make it a punishment and have you sitting there because that would suck. But just making sure that fits in when it fits the story.
I've had a lot of characters die recently, so I've gotten very good at rapidly making characters to fit a situation.
Yeah, I often have backup characters, so...
Yeah.
Oh, you remember this? You remember Uthal and how she went out, Jetty?
Of course.
Just aura of frost damage on a grapple barbarian. No. That was a bad way to go. To be fair, like, we lost all but 2 players in that session, so...
Ooh.
Oh, yeah, Chitty did say that we've played high mortality games, didn't she?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I've not done them before. Definitely open to be a little bit meaner, but I'm not going to go hardcore. I'm going to definitely give you the risk though. So if you're going to be a kind of character that takes that risk, the chance will be there, and it won't be like, oh, they're about to die, I'm going to fudge that roll. If you put yourself in a position where you're going down, you're going down. but there won't be I'll try and avoid, unless the situation calls for it, going, they went down over there on the other side of the lava, there's no way you're getting there dead. Like, if you're going to have death saves, there needs to be a way, unless you've burned all your spells, there needs to be a way to actually get over there and stabilize and those kind of things. So I'm not going to build impossible situations.
Like, my main plan for a character is a Celestial Warlock, eventually, hopefully multi-classing into Twilight Cleric. I'm pretty certain I'll be able to keep people from failing their death saves.
Sounds
Just
right.
with the 60 feet aura of I can give you so many d6 to heal.
So a
That's
Celestial
really
Warlock.
good because. Oh, sorry, you go.
No, I was just confirming Celestial Warlock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
See,
I've been
I wanna
looking
play
at them
a
and they look fun.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, you continue.
I was just gonna say I've been thinking about playing a cleric, but like a very much not a healer cleric. So.
I was about to say.
I think,
I was about to say, ask whether it was you, Kitty, that raised that in the chat about 5e not being a heal you back up to full kind of game, and I loved that. That to me, I was like, exactly, that's amazing, because it's just hard. So I have no problem with us doubling up on characters, because I get the distinct impression that through characterization and other classes and those kind of things, we're going to see significant differentiation between the 6 or 7. So
yeah. Also, it's like there are so many ways to build the same class.
yeah,
It's like if Kitty's planning on playing Kitty, if you're planning on playing a murder cleric, you're going to be very different than my celestial warlock / cleric, because I'm gonna have healing for days, and you're just gonna be throwing out inflict wounds and harm and guiding bolt and spiritual weapon, and
there's no reason a cleric
yeah.
has to be the designated healer.
Exactly.
It's just often seen that way. So often you'll say, "Oh, I'm a cleric," and everyone's like, "Boom, you're the healer or you're support." And I just feel like there are so many interesting ways you can play a cleric that don't involve healing, and I think also narratively, it's more interesting to have a character that isn't just like, "Oh, I guess I care about everyone because I'm the healer." It's like, well, maybe you don't give a shit about these people that much, or maybe you just don't. You're not a healer. Like there are so many other avenues to take with a build of the cleric that I think is not. It's a shame, I think, that everyone just kind of defaults to thinking them as the healer or the support role.
I think it's a hangover from prior editions. Healing Word has pretty much cranked clerics up to 11. You can still heal with the backhander as a bonus action and still do whatever the hell you want with your main action.
Man. But again, really open with that. I'm also going to be super, super open with which character bases you use. When I've rolled characters before, I'm like, do what you want. So long as it's from an actual D&D thing, you go to town. I don't mind chopping books. I noticed that in some of the later books, they've sort of gone away from the way you do it in Adventure League, which I think was it's basically player's handbook +2, isn't it?
PHP +1.
PHP +1. I'm happy to go a little bit more broad there. The world that I've created has scope for doing pretty much anything within reason. So in terms of races and backgrounds and those kind of things, we can probably make it work. And, a little bit of variation's cool.
Yeah, I think the reason why Adventure League does it is because it's they want to limit how many books to go searching through for rules, which is why it's like, I've always just had a stance of, use whatever you want within, official sources, and if it's homebrew, get the okay from the GM. Just whatever you do, not, read your character sheet, read your features, and know what you can do, so you don't need to go looking up the rules for it in the middle of something that is in the middle of combat, for instance.
That's right.
You don't want to go looking up your class features in the middle of combat.
That's right, and that will help me because I've got a pretty good idea about what most spells do because I sit there and read the player's handbook and the DM's guides just for fun. But I'm not going to know split second. Oh, I'm going to play this new spell I've got. I'm like, I think it does this, but I am going to have to check. So if you, as the person casting that spell, can go, okay, this is what it does, this is how it works, and no, I'm not going to go, oh, are you being honest about that? Because, duh, of course you are. I'll be going, okay, cool, that's how we're rolling it, and that will save us all time. So that'll help me not have to have all the books and constantly go through them. But I will do what I can as I know what you're doing, especially with D&D Beyond now, because I can see your character sheets. I can just pull D&D Beyond up, give you the link, and see your character sheets. It makes it so easy. I've been using their turn tracker as well. And if that's how we do turn trackers, I'll probably throw a few more dollars into that to make sure I've got all of the monsters that we're likely to encounter and those kind of things, just to make it really easy with 1 or 2 extra windows open.
Brendan, what character were you thinking of?
God, that's a loaded question.
You're not being held to any of this, by the way, at this stage. Once we get to the characters, if it's changed completely, that is all good.
Yeah. Just I've got like 5 different concepts, and so knowing
Same. I've got a rogue. I've got a... So it's a rogue or a wizard or a bard.
Okay.
What about you?
So if I think Kitty's looking at some sort of warrior priest, I'll ditch that idea. That was based on one of the bad guys from Conan. The other 2 was a sort of the base was a sort of lowborn paladin, or a conjurer specialist. I played both and created both when I was DMing Adventurers League, and you can crank them up to whatever level you want, sort of using your rewards and so on. But I never got the chance to play either of them for more than 1 or 2 sessions, so this way I could do that. So it depends on what sort of... If there's a few spell slingers, I might go the paladin. If not, I might go the...
If you go a paladin and we end up with another divine caster, we'll just end up as the A-man.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
The other,
Oh, go on.
the other idea was a knife fighter, with a banderillos of iron spikes flinging them about the place. A straight fighter, basically. I just don't know if that's going to get boring for me later on.
Yeah, was that a machete that you dropped in the chat?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
You can always multi-class if you start getting bored anyway.
Yeah, is that going to be cool, or is there sort of training or what?
No, the game I play with a bunch of people who've been playing since D&D was a thing, and they play a lot of those rules where you have to train and those kind of things. But if you're leveling up and you can say this is what I'm going to do, sure, we'll have training, but I'm not going to force it. Basically, once you level up, next time you have a long rest, we'll be able to go through and do all that stuff, or even at the end of the thing, and after we have a long rest, those things will be available. We can assume that you've learnt them while casting in the last battle, or you've thought about them really deeply overnight. Because obviously, if there's ways, like if we're in a town and there's and half of the party are going shopping for a session, and you want to play with that stuff, hells yes, of course.
Right. So my machete guy, I was thinking of maybe fighter ranger. That sort of fits for the sneaky, low armor, but a bit of a, whatever.
Oh, that's an interesting one.
Nice.
Yeah.
So we've got just in the spitballing here, we've got Kitty as a cleric of trying to kill things. Sasha is sort of like a cleric-ish of trying not to kill things. Sorry?
I didn't specify that I was going to actually be a tank necessarily.
No. Just
Murder cleric.
Yeah, just generally a murder cleric. But again, I think it was you in the chat as well, Kitty, that said, well, the cleric shouldn't... The word cleric shouldn't define the character, because that's why we have character. It's just the cool stuff you use, and I really like that idea. So I am going to try and get better at not going, okay, the cleric does this, because I just think, in all of my games, just think that's just an awesome idea. Giggle Fairy, oh, sorry, go on. I was going to talk about something in the chat. Have a wait.
I was just going to say that, the idea that you play the class is more like a tabletop discussion, sort of not an in-game thing necessarily for me. Like, that's the rules that set up how you what you can do mechanically, but how you choose to actually present that character is not necessarily going to be, you know, the idea of a cleric or whatever. You might have, I guess, the personality and the idea, and what you do is sort of more what defines your character than I think just specifying the class, you know? That's kind of an out of game discussion.
100%. Arlene saying a gnome, potentially a rock gnome rogue class inventor. That sounds cool too.
Oh, that's nice.
Giggle.
I like that.
That's awesome. Giggle Fairy, a bard rogue whose instrument is a set of jingle bells, so on the rare occasion they fail sleight of hand, the bells ring.
I low-key want to play that.
Yep.
I'm not gonna lie. I read that and I was immediately like, yes. And you play Tabaxi, and you literally have the bell, and then whenever
Oh my
you fail a
God.
bell check,
Yes!
the bell is like ding.
Put a bell on the cat.
And then that's what gives you away. Oh, it's brilliant.
Giggle Fairy, that is champion. Excellent work.
So I may steal that. So maybe I'll be.
Now, so we got some bartery I heard up with Brendo, so that should be fun. But again, we'll take lots and lots of time to do this. So my thought from here is essentially, and again, I want your feedback on this one. 1 or 2 at a time. Sessions on. Oh, where's my screen again? On a setup like that, where over on the screen we can go sort of. You just bring up the screen there. You have the player on that side, me down the bottom, chat, and the little dingle dingles when people do following and all that kind of stuff, which will get me closer to being able to have a subscribe button to worry about. So we can just. I was about to try and use my screen to zoom it, but that doesn't work. So we can just sit in, and so obviously you guys will be able to build the class, but as you're saying what's happening, I'll just put it on here so the chat can see what we're doing. And then spend some time, maybe half a session or a whole session on a stream night to talk through it and go, okay, this is why, this is what I'm thinking. I can throw some ideas in or out. Let's get back to the all in. And if we have 2 in there, talk about whether some of the characters already know each other. Build it up so I can be furiously taking notes in the background and working out how that changes the story. So a few of those. So if you'd rather do that single and be a lone wolf, or if you'd like to do that in a small group or in a pair, let me know. Does that work?
Yeah, it works for me.
It works. In fact, if you're planning on playing a cleric of some description, are you planning on being actually part of a religious order or some sort?
Yeah, I have a few thoughts for that, kind of the background, like, character stuff. But, like, it does depend on, well, I guess the specifics of it depend on the world setting. But, I'm thinking something like a grave cleric that, so someone who has sort of been isolated in a temple somewhere or a grounds, like not necessarily participating in the world, but seeing a lot of people and interacting with people a bit more, but usually people that are dying.
Can you hear us again? You just dropped out for a second there. Yeah, we got the last of usually people who are dying.
Yeah, so people who are dying are maybe like helping people come to terms with the fact that they're dying, or like assisting them to die if they've got a particularly painful illness, or and then having like rituals that go along with that sort of thing. And I don't know, like I'm thinking personality wise, not necessarily a normal sort of religious person, but someone who I guess like grew up to do this and fulfill this role or something like that. I don't know what like it doesn't in a lot of ways it doesn't matter specifically what the god's name is. It's more the role and function that I think the character plays in that temple or that religion.
Because I was thinking, if we're both gonna be somewhat connected to divine magic, would it be a good idea for us to do our session together and have us know each other? Because that's worked well in the past.
Sure. I don't know though because I mean, it depends, but I have in my head a little bit of an idea of where I want my character's sort of history to go, and having us know each other might I don't know, reveal too much of that too soon, kind of thing. Like,
Yeah, fair
the
enough.
character won't build as much. But I mean, we can discuss that. I just I don't know. Yeah, we could work that out.
Another way to
Because I
work.
guess it depends on.
Another way to work around that is the other thing we can do is we can do a few of them single, but before we get into the main game, we can do a couple of beginning games where we have 1 or 2 or 3 over the course of it come together and do, okay, we'll do half with one, half with the other, and they come together. And by the beginning of the main session, when we're all in, you walk into that, let's call it a tavern, together. It's really not going to be a tavern now, I've said that twice, but I'm going to say it's a tavern until it's not. I have to think of something better than
Until
tavern.
further notice.
That's right. And so,
Ooh,
Please hold on.
I just had an idea. So, Anthony, you said like potentially like preferably someone who's like relatively lowborn and stuff.
Yeah, I don't know whether human or some other race that sort of looks human but would be treated like a freak, but still grew up in the peasant village and nobody knows what they actually are. But
Nice.
basically grew up. This is if I'm going with the paladin idea. The knife fighter could be the same. I grew up in a sort of peasant background and fought with the local militia. So that's where either they're a fighter or a woodsy type or whatnot.
No, see, that works for the sort of backstory I'm thinking of for my one, because I want to play someone who essentially, in a ditch moment of desperation, made a deal with the divine.
Mhm.
And, like, if the town that you were in the militia for, whatever, had been attacked, that would be a brilliant time for my character to desperately make that deal and start helping out the town.
all right. So I got a few ideas. Oh, sorry, go on. Sorry, Sasha.
Because I'm planning on going basically a wandering like guardian priestess. So when I end up getting into cleric a bit, like Twilight Domain, get heavy armor and everything, like, and just like the wandering like guardian priestess, who, yeah, and like,
Interesting.
and I like the idea of like just this person who like militiaman who has all of the like who has a degree of training and everything, and just this person who is just desperate, teaming up to try and survive. Yeah, teaming up and surviving the storm, and then deciding, you know what, we need to move on from here
Awesome.
and just move. Yeah.
Maybe we could pair up for character creation then, if that sort of fits. Also,
Yeah.
as an icebreaker, people who don't know each other pairing up as well might actually be better in a way.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
And I think the more I'm hearing, the more I'm leaning towards using the existing world that I've created, but just in a different place to where the other characters are at the moment. So in my IRL game, I've got this complete continent that's on a much larger world, but that continent itself is is constantly the one that I'm adding into. And so whether I do that at a different time or at the same time or a later time, and a few of the things you're saying would actually fit into elements of the history that's led up to where I am in my brain in that one. So I'll probably use that, which I'll unpack in those sessions where we make the characters as we're having discussions. So, for example, with yours, Kitty, if you're going, look, this is the one I'm talking about, well, in some worlds, the Raven Queen would suit, and that might work here. But I've also got something in my pantheon that sort of mirrors some of the versions of Raven Queen that is a little bit different. And obviously I've stolen stuff from all the stuff I've watched, both knowingly and unknowingly. And I sort of play with those and put them in. And then if there's something like a situation there that we could build into it. We could go back and do a quick role play on that with the two people as they mix and jump forward. I don't feel like we need to jump into the full all of us game straight away. I feel like we can take our time. If we're going to go, and I'll ask this question before we finish tonight, if we're going to go fortnightly, what I'll do on the other week is still do a D&D stream, still play around with this, but maybe do a few of those kind of things, maybe world build, maybe, do maps, just play around, because at the moment I'm doing my streams as playing games, and I'm just jumping through games because I can't stick to anything at the moment. But once we start this, the Monday is exclusively for me, going to be every Monday either streaming Dungeons & Dragons or streaming about it, doing stuff for it. So anybody who decides to get interested in this can see how the whole thing looks.
Also,
outside
you know what
of
I'm
game
thinking?
discussions are cool.
What's that?
Yeah. Also, I think I spoke over you for a second there, Kitty.
That's okay, you go. I do have a few questions, but you go.
Yeah, like, I was just thinking, it's like, well, you know what I'm thinking? With the fact that you've got, that you're potentially going to be using the same world as your IRL game? Crossover episode.
Yeah, that is a long discussion with the people who play that. There's a reason I came to the D&D group to you guys for that, because a number of the people that I play with probably wouldn't love to be face on camera. Winter Anth, Remy the Chipper Warrior. And everybody worships the great and powerful Lord. So yeah, I would love that, personally. I know that a few of them would definitely not, at least in the short term. If we suddenly get, internet famous, that might change. You never know. Kitty, you had some questions. Let's do them.
Questions, but more. I would really like to, at some point, discuss the gods and temples and stuff of your world.
Absolutely.
I have this idea in my head of what kind of religion I want, and what kind of it's very sort of niche little idea of whether it's like a side cult or something, but to a specific sort of god type. And to be honest, even like the official ones in D&D don't really fit the role that I have in mind. So it'd be really cool if we could sort of discuss what exists in your setting already, and maybe even if it's like a side cult of one of those gods or something. It'd be interesting, but I'd like to sort of discuss that with you a bit more. There's some things I want to discuss with you as the DM that not necessarily have everyone know straight away.
Perfect.
Because that, even though like there's always a separation between player and character, sometimes it's nice to have those little things that the players don't know about your character straight away.
Absolutely.
So I would kind of like to have a few things like that.
No worries.
I think I'm cutting out. Oh no.
Oh, that was great timing. I feel so much for Kitty at the moment with that dropping out. It's just a little amount of time, but that's got to be so frustrating. The fact that we can't hear stuff being thrown. The fact that we can't hear something thrown across the room every time you pop back in and back out is testament to your character, hey?
Oh, I'm glad the mic cuts out as well.
Yeah, fair call.
So I will do some more pressure testing of my gear and see if I can get a better connection or work out whether it's I've not done a massive group chat through Discord before with video, so it could be some of my settings, but normally I just do voice chat or through Roll20 video, so it could be just my settings, but it could also be my internet just being at the moment.
If it turns out not to be the internet, we could always try playing around with WebEx or something like that. Yeah.
I could also try a different location. I haven't played in this room before, so maybe it's just this room.
Fair enough.
Maybe it's patchy. But yeah, I'll do some pressure testing and try to work out why it's doing this.
Excellent.
Fix it.
Easy done. I'm thinking probably then for those extras, I was just looking behind me before to see if I had my binder of stuff, but it's out by my gaming table in the other room. So maybe when we do the one-on-ones, we'll go through that. I can send you some stuff beforehand I can send you some screenshots of the stuff I've drawn out and talk about that a little bit. And when we do a one-on-one, we can go into much more detail. And I think for the one-on-ones, we might have a little sign that says "Players mute, please." So if we choose to stream it, it can be, hey, this would be a really good time not to watch this one until you see it in game. And that'll mean that we'll be able to keep a few of those things reasonably quiet. Obviously, can't control the chat completely, but it'll minimise that risk. So if that works, and otherwise, definitely we can get in touch through Discord outside a stream time and talk about it a bit more. Because the only thing that stops me doing this kind of stuff all of the time is my wife, who does not game, does not play this kind of stuff, who's super supportive and long-suffering. It's just like, I really don't get this stuff you do. I love that you do it. I like that you've got something to keep you sane-ish. But what? You're weird. And I love her for putting up with my crap, to be honest. So that's the only thing that stops me. So if there's an opportunity to talk about it, I'm in.
So glad I met both my partners at LARP.
That's it. You got to have that stuff in common. The thing we've always had in common, of course, is traveling across the world together. So in the past year or two, hasn't been a lot of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we're not going to talk about that because I'm pretending to be happy today. I'm just looking at the chat. Winter Anth has got a few cool ideas there. Something with Divine, Accidental Asima, Divine Soul Sorcerer. And Giggle Fairy has designed the Great and Powerful Oz as the Great and Powerful Aussie. So I like that. So yeah, definitely. If you guys are happy with that, I will sort of backfill a bit more information about the world. I'm pretty sure I'm at least going to base it on the one I've got, just to sort of cut down on the amount of time I'm going to spend building an initial world. I don't think one of the existing modules is really going to do it for us. I feel like you're all going to feel like you push down a path too much, and I'm going to get bored with telling the story that way.
The great god of animals and wrestling, Steve Irwin.
All right, well, I created this croc, right? I'm going to stick my finger in his butt. Yeah.
She's a beauty.
She's a beauty, and you must worship her now. Like top of Pantheon khakis. I love it.
Religious dress, khakis, khakis, short shorts, and Tims.
That's it. Alrighty.
Religious service involves compulsory wrestling of large danger lizards.
That's it. And there's a few of them around in the D&D canon, so it'll be a very, very different park in Queensland there, I reckon, as well.
When they meet the Dragonborns.
Wow.
Look at this beauty.
Excuse me. Excuse me, I don't like being called a pretty or a beauty.
Kitty, it's Uthal. Crap, Kitty's dropped out.
He's gone again. All right, have we got?
Kitty, it's Uthal. Sees a dragon, wrestles it.
What else? What else do we want to cover? I think I'm going to need more backstory on this high death campaign of yours with the Uthal, and I think that's going to have to be part of your character creation story, Sasha.
Oh yeah, I'll give story time.
Yay! All right. Is there anything else that we? Oh, sorry.
If you want eventually, like if you're short on notes and stuff for games in the future, like we can do like role-playing game story times as filler episodes.
Well, that sounds fun. That would give me the lessons. The lessons that gives stuff away, doesn't it? The sessions where I don't have a voice. Yeah. Sorry, you go.
Yeah. It's just campfire sessions, where we're all sitting around telling it stories of adventurers of the past.
That's it. I'm like, I've got a bit of a sore voice. Yeah. It's test week. Somebody else is leading. Let's tell stories.
Yeah, could even tell us from the perspective of our current characters in this game, telling stories that they've heard about these other heroes of old in different worlds.
That is a cool idea.
So that's happening, and because there are times, like I've only been doing this for about a month, but there are already times where if I've had a lot of lessons during the day and then I've streamed, by the end of the week I'm just like, I'd like to not talk for a while. So there'll be sessions where I'll be like, you know what? Can we next session do one where somebody else tells stories and we'll be at a campsite and we'll jump through that. I think that's an awesome idea. That's going to be fun.
For slight spoilers, Uthal's full name? Uthal Stonebleeder. She was metal as fuck. Sorry.
No, see, that's what I mean. We don't try to swear here, but if you're going to say metal is something, there's an argument that there's appropriate context. All right, is there anything else you want to cover today before we move on?
She suplexed a Revenant template dragon, okay? I'm pretty sure that qualifies.
I'm very happy with the group that we put together here. Can I just say that? This is going to be so amazing. Yeah, so are there any other things we want to cover? Anything else you want me to think about? Anything that you want me to clarify before we sort of start to wrap up and just talk trash for a little while? Because sorry, go on, Brendan.
I was going to say, I can't think of anything.
Mm-hmm.
All the specifics of making characters we'll go through when we're doing it, like,
yeah,
system and that sort of thing.
That's it. And again, I'm flexible on that too. If you have a particular way you like to roll a character, unless you like to just have everything 20s, that's probably a bit hard. But anything really reasonable aside from that, I've played games where I've gone, I want to make sure I have something where I have a negative, and then my old school gamers have laughed at me, and then we've played a couple of games, and I'm like, I get why you laughed at me now. It's rubbish to have something that I'm really bad at.
Nah, -4. Nah, -4 in charisma. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Again.
I mean, I am actually generally not necessarily in this situation because the nature of how we're, I guess, streaming and the kind of game that this will be is not appropriate. But I am a big fan of the when you roll the stats in order and then make your character around them, so that you don't allocate the stats. It's what you roll when you roll it. But in this case, because I think we're trying to make a cohesive story out of this and make it interesting to watch, not just play, and creating, obviously, a character that is almost random is not so easy to build a whole team that way.
Absolutely, but again,
I do like that system.
Again, if we want to find a way for you to do that, and other people don't want to do it, and we can still balance the game, which we can always do. We can always balance the like if something's too easy, we can up the ante in places. There's so many ways that I think that if we want some of us to do one thing and some of us to do another, so long as everyone's happy with the result. Well, that's another thing. Like I normally do 46, remove the lowest, but when somebody's just had an absolutely terrible roll, I'm like, yeah, no, that one's rubbish. Start again. Do it again, because why stick to that? It's not really like if you're playing a role-playing game on the computer and you hate what you roll it again until you don't hate it. So having dice is really important until it's totally not anymore. It's only important while it works for you to an extent. Essentially, if it starts being a drag, throw that one out the window. Lots of people play D&D without dice. They just go, well, that's unlikely to happen, or flip a coin. So there's ways around anything, I reckon. And I suppose that's... Yeah, sorry, go on.
Yeah, I was just going to say, while I like that system, if I've got a character in mind, then obviously I want the stats to reflect that. So it's much more, you want to pick your highest roll for the stat that is appropriate. But if I've got necessarily no idea of what I'm playing,
I haven't rolled dice for ability scores for years, so I'm easy to do it. But I've always just gone point by or array.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons that we spend time making these characters is, like, if you're happy with array, do array. If somebody wants to roll, do roll. If you hate your roll and you don't want... And then even to the point where if you choose to play your stabby rogue and you get 10 levels in and go, I hate this character now, well, if you hate this character, let's kill it. Let's make it disappear in a river or something and find one that you do like. Because it's all down to, are we all enjoying it? And are we all enjoying the character we're playing and what we're doing? Giggle Fairy says, dice are not gods. Array is the least stressful option, which they're always happy with. So the same thing, like whatever works for you all. This is how I like to roll. That's my little H&M breadboard, which I put some green stuff on. And a few of those. Probably not from that high, if I'm honest. So I'm going to try and get a little sort of USB camera that I can put down and I can show the rolls when I want to. I'm not a fan of fudging rolls when I can avoid it, unless the story really calls for it. I just don't think it's, if you're going to play with dice, same thing. They're not the gods, but the game is based around using them from time to time. So when it's not going to be a big issue, I'll show it. When it is going to be a big issue, you probably won't see it, but I'm not likely going to roll it 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, I think the trick is to you not necessarily fudge the roll, but change the narrative.
100%.
What are the consequences of that roll rather than changing the roll? I think there's always a creative option there, and unless it's a straight like, do you hit, do you not, and in which case I don't think there's any real point to fudging a roll anyway. But yeah, like I often think narratively you can make something interesting of whatever that roll is without necessarily changing the roll.
Absolutely. Now, speaking about fudging rolls, I do want to raise one thing that I see in my DMing that's a huge weakness, and it's about my self-control, is when I see something happen and someone say something, I'll just see a funny way that they could deal with it, and I throw that out of character as something funny. I do it as a character too much. I've done it as a DM too much. It's nobody's been annoyed with it except me. I've looked at it happen and go, oh man, if someone did that to me, it would annoy me. And it's without thinking a lot of the time. So if I do that, please go, oi, my character. Don't feel like you can't do that. It's something I have done from time to time as a DM, but I try not to. And it's definitely something I've done as a character and seen, because in my game where I play as a character, we don't really role play that much. I like the role play part of it, so we role play super light, where most of what we're doing is arguing over how long it takes for a horse to stop and whether we would fall off it, and do the specifics. And I'm being a bit facetious, but it's just a completely different thing than I imagined myself. And so then it works where I'm like, this could happen, and everyone's going, oh yeah, that's what's happened. And my DM there on a number of occasions has gone, well, that's what you do now. And that's sort of the best. That's been really good for shutting me down when I've been getting too overzealous there. So if I do that, you're under absolutely complete your control of just going, oi, Einstein's, you play my character for me, shut your mouth. So that's probably what I think is my biggest weakness there. Do look out for it. If there's other stuff, tell me, make me better. Like the whole reason I do these kind of things is so I get better at them.
Yeah, constructive feedback.
Yeah, I must admit, when I get excited with game situations, I do have a problem with just blurting out stuff and going, oh, wait, back up, let people talk, finish their thing. So if I do that, I apologize, but I am trying to make sure I don't do that. I'm not going to be offended if someone's like, just stop. But yeah, sometimes I get a little carried away with narratives.
Nice. And I'll bet the other side, I'm the kind of DM that will try and sit on it as much as I can. When that's happening, I'd rather that you were talking, particularly if you're talking amongst the character. If we can do whole sessions where you guys run a discussion, whatever, we'll game next week. I'm not in a rush to get to the climax of the campaign in any way. And if we suddenly are, there's ways to do that, and there's ways that you can drive that as well as characters, I think.
If we were racing for the end of the campaign, we'd be playing Curse of Strahd and we'd all be light clerics.
Yeah, that's it.
Any percent speed run.
That's it. All right. Anything else that people want to add or say or do before we call it for a night? Because when we're playing, I get the impression 2 hours is going to be a challenge for this group. I think we're going to get into it quite a lot and forget the time, which is fine for me on a Monday. It just means that I change the lessons for Tuesday morning a little bit, or that I have to have an extra coffee. So for me, that's not a big issue. I do try and get myself to bed before 10 p.m. because I'm somebody who needs, as Bill Hicks said in the 80s, I need 8 hours a day, and if I get 9 at night, I'm good. So
Just desperately trying to maintain the illusion of responsible adult.
100%. I only do responsible adult because I have to, because society and everything. But aside from that, this is my world.
Adulthood's a lie. There's only kids with drinking licenses.
Oh, exactly. So that's just saw a thing online the other day. It's like, yeah, when I was 20, I looked at 30-year-olds and said, when I'm like them, I'll be an adult. And now I'm like them. I'm like, when I'm like them, I'll be an adult. And I'm pretty sure that doesn't end now.
I don't even know what adulting is.
Yeah. I tend to think that you just take the A and put a space between that and adult.
Yeah.
Probably more accurate.
Alrighty, well, I think we're going to sort of...
Adulthood's alive. No one knows what they're doing. We're just holding on for dear life.
Absolutely. I wouldn't have it any other way. I think we'll probably start winding down now. So if there's anything else you guys want to raise before closing, any closing comments, anything else you want to do, any call-outs, anything like that, do you have streaming presences that we want to bring into it? More than happy to do that. I know Arlene does stream. And so when we get a chance to talk to her on the stream, we'll work out, or when she's not having to work, we'll talk about that and see if that's a thing. Any of you in that same boat where we need to... Ah, there you are. Hey! Anyone else in that sort of position where you do some streaming and we want to keep that a consideration as well?
Yeah, I'm streaming D&D on Friday nights. So currently running through level 13 group deep in Chult.
Oh, I do love Chult. What's that stream called? Do you want to shout it out?
Yeah, Flurry of Foes.
Flurry of Foes. So if you want to get straight into action,
Plug, not sponsored.
that's it. If you 100%, if you want to get involved in a game right now and you don't want to hear us talking about games for a bunch of weeks, Flurry of Foes, do that. There we go. There's an option.
There's no streaming that I can put on a channel that is run by an English teacher.
Seems fair.
Ooh, I am so intrigued.
Absolutely.
Hey, you know what my second job used to be.
I hope there are people in that chat going, right, I have a job to do now.
Hey.
Let's
Don't.
just say it's very difficult to insult me on the internet.
Here's the thing. Anybody who's watching the stream, don't stalk people too hard online, please.
Look,
Yeah.
Or at all.
Or at all, exactly.
If there is something, odds are, if there is something horrible someone can say to me on the internet, I've heard it. And you can extrapolate from there.
Yeah, well, there's the danger of the internet, isn't it? Because anybody's allowed on there. You don't need a license.
Yeah, sometimes I wish you did.
That's it. Anyway, on that highfalutin concept, I think we might call that an evening because we're getting towards 9 o'clock. I'm going to do bed. I would say what we might do off stream in the next couple of days, if we can organise who wants to go first and what those groups are. Are we going to do solo? Are we all actually? That was a question I said I would ask. Are we all happy with fortnightly? Does fortnightly work for everybody, or are there some of us going, I'd really like to play weekly?
Fortnightly's ideal for me.
Yeah,
As
works for
much
you.
as I would love to do weekly, I'm happy to do fortnightly. It's fine.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, I really like weekly because I sometimes feel like after a fortnight I'm like, wait, what happened last time? I'm confused. But I am obviously aware of other people's constraints, and I'm happy to do fortnightly if that's what suits, you know.
You might just be stuck with me and you're in between Mondays, and that's fine.
Oh, I
I'll
am.
just have my own little story time. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
I'm 100% down with that. Just for me, like I was happy, and I'd always thought, oh, we'll do it weekly. But as soon as a few of you said, look, you know what, actually fortnightly works for me, I'm like, you know what? Like tomorrow, I'm DMing IRL in the room at the other end of the house. I've got I built myself a big D&D table, looks like a pool table, and has the screen on it and everything. And we haven't played in 3 weeks, and I have about 3 or 4 hours of planning that I should do. But I'm going to go to bed, and then I'm going to go to work, and then I'm going to do it. So I'm just going to completely go off the cuff. Any of my players, if you're listening, totally planning.
Hey, creative writing time for the students.
Oh, I am not going to out myself for using my students for ideas.
That would never, ever, ever.
Not publicly. Not publicly.
Not publicly.
Only the Discord.
Exactly right. But yeah, so then I thought, well, wait a minute. One Tuesday I'm DMing. The other Tuesday I'm playing. I have this time where I'm not working and not doing this, where I'm supposed to spend time with my wife. Apparently it's a thing where if you want to maintain relationships, you need to actually spend time with the person, all that kind of gear. And then I'm thinking about everything and going, you know what, maybe every second week, having a week where we can chill on the stream and not actually play and develop, while that means there's 2 weeks between this game, there is also a week where if we want to jump on and chat, like unless I'm like, yep, we're doing something about someone's secret backstory today, can you mute for half an hour? I'd love to have you on the opposite weeks if you're available. And if for 1 week everyone's like, you know what, I'm actually available, I'll try and be enough ahead in my brain to go, okay, we're going to do this. And we could always change it to weekly when everybody's available.
And also, like, if anyone wants to do a one-shot or something on the off week.
Yeah, that sounds cool as well. Seeing as we're all DM, no filler.
That's it.
Awesome. Alrighty, and Arlene says, yeah, so I know Arlene was saying that she's not ideal for weekly either. So I think we'll stick with fortnightly for now. As I say, definitely open to have you guys jumping into the chat. I get the distinct impression that having you on my stream will make my stream infinitely better. So please always do that. And if you've got any other questions, let me know either in the group or personally. If you want to come on to the Discord chat and have a bit of a chat, feel free. I think I set up, I've set a session 0 engagement there, which I'll eventually use for the, oh, wow, I have not been looking on. I need to get better at looking on that. There's some cool stuff up there that you guys have already dropped. But yeah, I'll normally sit on general chatter, I think, when I'm streaming, but that session 0 engagement will be where I go once we start streaming proper and we're inviting backseating and we're inviting people to engage with the game. So it's there. So if you want to throw something in there, I'll check that on the regular. I try not to check my socials when I'm at work because, you know, work, there to do a job. I try to leave my phone literally away when I'm working because I just feel like I should earn my money. But when I see something, I'll try and engage with it whenever I can. Aside from that, thank you very much for coming and joining. Thank you for answering the call to come and play around with this. Thank you now and in advance for bearing with me when I do it wrong, and for being vocal when you've got examples or improvements that I can do. But yeah, generally, thank you for helping me do this. It's something I've wanted to do for ages, and I'm just so excited and so happy that you guys have come in. I think it's going to be awesome.
I'm always happy to play more games.
I'm keen. Let's go.
Absolutely.
Let's Dungeons and Dragons.
Absolutely. So I think that was a successful start to the whole campaign and everything. On Wednesday, I'm going to play video games on the stream. And on Friday, I'll probably play video games on the stream. I think it's going to rain over the weekend, so I think I'll be working on this house, so I might stream. And then next Monday, I think, if there's some people up for it, we might do our first roll of characters. So, again, yeah, so we won't make a final decision on who goes first or anything on stream. I want it to be a little bit of a surprise. So before we start the stream on Monday next week, I'll say, this is who's joining us, and then that'll happen.
Let's go.
All right, and then after that, we might do it Mondays, Wednesdays. We might do it weekly. We'll see how it goes. I reckon in the next 3 or 4 weeks, though, we'll be playing in a campaign.
Very good.
Very
All right.
excited.
I like it.
Thank you very much for your time tonight. Brendo, I'm thinking Friday is a good night to do more Sea of Thieves because we are fantastic rubbish pirates.
I'm pretty sure we're pretty competent. I mean, that was a lot of booty we had last
Oh,
time.
absolutely. We didn't get murdered and killed by the other pirates at all until we did.
I don't remember it, so it didn't happen.
And thanks very much, Arlene, for chilling in. I'm so sorry that you had to work late. I don't think that should ever have to happen to anyone, but we all know it does. And so I'll get in touch with you off stream as well, and we'll work out a time to talk to you further and get you involved with everyone.
Night shift.
Thank you very much, everyone. I am going to drop off now. Thank you all for joining us, and I will see you all before long.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Alright. Thanks, guys.
See you later. Chat, thank you very much for joining us, Giggle Fairy and Winter Anth. Awesome comments through there today. I really appreciate that. And the others that chatted in. It was lovely to have you actually be able to come in, Arlene, and at least say a few things. I think that went really well. I'm absolutely buzzing. There is no way I'm going to sleep tonight. Chances are, if you pop around to watch the stream on Wednesday, I'll still be going on about it. And please do come and watch me play horrible games. I think I'm going to try and get into the beta for Icarus, the new survival game out of Rocketworks, the New Zealand studio, and do those beta weekends. So I'm going to have a crack at that. But in the meantime, I think Wednesday will just be able to decide what we play depending on what I feel like. If you've got suggestions, throw them in the chat either now or on Wednesday. Aside from that, that concludes our first session 0. I haven't thought of a way to finish it yet, but we don't always need a way to do it. Thank you again. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for engaging in the chat. Thank you for making this little dream become a reality. Till next time, see you later.